What was January 6th? Well, there was destruction of property, which we're totally opposed to. But what motivated it? Why were all those people there? Well, for the most part, a year later, it's very clear January 6th was essentially what it appeared to be. Thousands of ordinary American citizens, voters, people who believe in our democracy far more fervently than Liz Cheney ever has, came to Washington because they sincerely believed democracy had been thwarted. They believed the presidential election was unfair, and they have a right to believe that. And by the way, in many ways, they were correct. The presidential election was unfair, and you don't have to get into anything about voting machines to believe that.
Yeah, well, look, let's be clear. He would prefer not to get into anything about voting machines. He doesn't want to make very specific claims about supposedly what made it unfair, because Tucker Carlson is in this for money, and he's not gonna get money by being sued by one of these companies, by Dominion or whatever. So he's not gonna say they manipulated the voting machines, they stole your democracy, and he won't even say that it was 100% fraudulent, it was stolen. Because again, he doesn't want to get sued, and he doesn't want to be the cause of Fox getting sued. But the entire thing on the right now is assuring their voters that I believe the same thing as you, but not getting sued. And the way that you do that is it was unfair. It was totally unfair. You're right to think that it was unfair. He speaks vaguely. It triggers to them that he's on their side, but protects him from legal liability. In the middle of a segment where that entire thing was just him saying, the insurrectionists were right, I'm on their side, it's wrong to criticize them, they don't belong in jail. We've come a long way since January 6th, Jason.
We have. Well, I marvel at the fact that, I assume that Tucker Carlson is a journalist, and normally when you are a journalist, you report things that are actual, factual, and have been vetted thoroughly, right? So everything that about the insurrection, we've seen the pictures, we've seen the video, we've seen the testimony from people who were there, from the guy who almost lost his life. There's just so many different items and different videos and instances that are antithetical with what the right is saying about what happened at January 6th. But yeah, people on Fox News, and by the way, Tucker Carlson's hair, I don't know if that's a toupee or what he's wearing, but some hairdressers need to get him together quickly. It's always opinion. It's always based on opinion, and it's also indicative of how easily swayed that their viewers and their base are. That they get, as you mentioned, triggered by the way he delivers these stories. I would be more apt to listen and to be intrigued and to even entertain the notion that what happened on January 6th wasn't what they're saying it is. If they would, again, as you said, John, come from a more vetted and what's the word I'm looking for? Truthful perspective, right? Like, hey, Tucker Carlson, we don't know what happened that day, but here are the facts that have been vetted and have been, I don't say approved, but have been proven to be true. That's never the case. Anytime, especially on Fox News, when we see any coverage on what happened January 6th of this year, it's always based in opinion of what he thinks happened, what they think happened, what their sources who they are in bed with that share the same ideologies think happened. But it's never ever based in actual journalism and actual facts of here's what really went down. Here's how we can prove that this went down from reputable sources that lean on both the left and the right. It's never that. It's always this heightened sense of these histrionics of what Tucker Carlson just displayed for us.
Everybody in the audience, look at this guy. He's talking about reputable sources in American politics. Come on, reputable sources, come on. This is Tucker Carlson. This is Tucker Carlson who released a documentary saying that the FBI did this as a false flag. This is a guy who like 2 weeks ago said that Alex Jones was one of the best journalists in the country. Alex Jones started off this week, by the way, saying that the tornadoes that killed a bunch of people across the United States might have been, he's not saying definitely, but they might have been the result of Joe Biden using a weather machine to create tornadoes. And I'd like to give a little bit of credit to Alex Jones for not even taking a couple weeks after the Tucker Carlson compliment to like protect Tucker a little bit. Like he instantly jumped back into crazy conspiracy stuff as if to make Tucker Carlson look as crazy as he does. But yeah, no, there's no reputable sources. He's not a journalist. And that's fine. You can comment on the news without being a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I am an analyst and a commentator. That's all I am. But you should as Jason said, try to use something approaching a reputable source. Try to base the opinions that you have on evidence, on reason, ideally with a little bit of a side dish of empathy as well. But he's not in it for any of that. He's in it to generate a large, lucrative audience, and he is objectively better at that than I am, I suppose. He might be doing a little bit of irreparable damage to America at the same time, but hey, what do you get? What can't make an omelet, that sort of thing.
And I think I would implore those that work at the F Network to think about like they're the type of place from viewing them over the years that they've always done what they've always did, so they're always going to do what they've always done, right? And imagine if I always thought Megyn Kelly was going to be that person, and then she wasn't with the whole blackface thing on NBC. But imagine if someone went on and said, "Look, my ideology is this. However, here are the facts. Here's what we do know to be certain," and completely get rid of any kind of political leaning or the brand they're buying into, and allow that in that moment to be the news that is sourced. They would probably have more of an engagement and people who would want to listen to that and get behind that than, well, they have people who get behind them nightly, of course, because their ratings are incredible and millions of people tune to Fox News and watch Tucker Carlson daily. But it just would be really eye-opening to see that happen there, and it never does. It never on any of their shows, right? It's always this, like, again, these histrionics and these very overarching and triggering displays of just buffoonery. So, and again, shout out, and if Tucker Carlson's makeup artist and hairstylist is watching, that's not the job for you, boo. It's not the job.
Look, we only have a little bit of time. I will mirror Tucker Carlson by saying that nearly a year since January 6th, like Tucker Carlson, I believe, yes, it was what it looked like at the time. And what it obviously was, it was a group of people who had been lied to by people who they tragically trusted in politics, like Trump and Giuliani and others, and in media like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. They had been told in advance of the election and in the time between the election and January 6th that it was gonna be stolen, that if Trump lost, it was by definition stolen. They were told that over and over and over again. And these people were spun until they couldn't comprehend anything around them. So despite the fact that there was no evidence that had been stolen, that they lost case after case after case, they believed it. Like in their bone marrow, they believed it. And so they also believed that something could be done to stop it. And so they went to the Capitol to try to do that. And any individual person in that crowd might have thought a different thing needed to be done. Maybe some thought we just need to yell. Some thought we have to pressure our politicians. Some thought we need to choke the life out of our politicians. But they went there to try to change the result. And now they have been protected ever since then by people like Tucker Carlson, who will deny the racial component of this, the fact that they were lied to, the fact that they actually did it. He's still trying to say that the FBI just made up the whole thing. And so the issue with January 6th isn't just everything that was done on January 6th. It's that nothing was learned. We're no better protected from this sort of thing than we were on January 6th. And another incident like it is almost certainly coming and is likely to be even worse. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.